Okay, so for everyone joining, we love your questions. We love your comments. We are live, so everyone don't forget to send me your thoughts, your questions. I will sprinkle them in live through the conversation. So we are gonna get started. So for everyone joining in today's discussion, representation matters. It definitely does. And our topic, players union leadership. So when it comes to professional sports, the business is built around the 5% of talent. So what does that mean? It means the athletes that we see on the court or the field of play. The other 95% use their talents behind the scenes to bring professional sports to life. These are the members of the Pro Sports Assembly, the PSA. So I am Shelley Zalis. I am the CEO of the Female Quotient and a proud member of the Pro Sports Assembly. And today we have two incredible females, women joining us today. So if you could each introduce yourselves, tell us who you are and what you do. Let's start with that. So Erin, why don't you start us off?
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Erin Miller. I'm the SVP of Operations and Events for the National Basketball Retired Players Association, NBRPA for short. It's a mouthful, so sometimes if around the league, they know us just as the RPA. So we represent all former NBA and WNBA players and help them in their transition. So we like to say we're the union or agency for that former player. As much as they're, had their time on the court, there's a lot of life off the court, and we help them in that transition, and it looks very different for every athlete, regardless of age, demographic, you name it. So we help represent them and provide opportunities, programming, events, and make sure they know they're still always part of the basketball family. That's, our number one mission. And then also love to go back into the communities and do great work. We are a nonprofit organization. And so we spearhead some Legends Care initiatives that use those athletes and giving back to the communities where they came from, and where we can, use the sport of basketball to grow what we do as an organization, and also what the league and the unions do.
That's amazing. Okay, Lenor, take us away.
My name is Lenor Cologne. I work for the Major League Baseball Players Association. I'm the Senior Director of International and Domestic Player Operations. I focus on player relationships, operations, joint ventures with the league, and more importantly, helping players maximize their opportunities as major league players and assisting them to succeed on the field and off the field.
Okay, amazing. And so you are both founding members of the Assembly as well. And so let's just start off by, why did you join PSA?
I'll kick off. Lenore and I actually were chatting about this. You get kind of approached by a lot of different groups that wanting you to join, specifically if there's a fee associated with it. But this group just seemed different from the top down, and the communication, the leadership, and knowing someone like Laura Dixon, who, really connects people and wants to connect people. It's part of the passion of this organization, and you want to be a part of something like that, and then to give back to the next generation, and knowing that there's tiers to it. And I've been asked to sit on the task force for membership and how we grow our members for my organization, and how we can grow this organization. And I think it's really smart to bring in those types of people, and they want to get your feedback. It's not just, getting a due. You get a lot out of it. I get personal and professional development out of it as well. And it just expands my network and how we can help, cross sports, or even those that are maybe not in sports right now, but, are looking to get into it. So.
Fantastic. Lenor, what about you?
For me, this was something that it just appeared to add to what Erin said. It was really unique opportunity to bring everyone in the sports world in any category, whether you're with unions, leagues, a club, and professionals, to be able to network together, learn from each other, grow from each other, and then really kind of inspire the next generation to kind of continue to work together and expand their professional careers. So this is something it was unique. I was excited to be a part of it. Love everything that's been happening since. I've joined all the seminars, the webinars, and really looking forward to what's going to come in the next few years.
It's really exciting. I mean, and let's also like start off by talking about like, what do unions do? Like, let's level the field here and talk about unions. Like, what do they do?
So unions represent the collective interest of workers, and they are the negotiating party that negotiates with employers on their behalf. So they really focus on protecting the workers, their rights, working conditions, their salary, their wages, their benefits. And I'm lucky enough to do that and work as part of a broader group for the baseball players.
And our union is helping those, being a voice for those former players, whether you played a game or you played 20 years. So we operate differently. We're not part of the collective bargaining, but we are part of that, the voice of basketball and the game itself, and making sure there's opportunities for those former players once they're done playing.
So when you think about the PSA and the power of the collective, bringing together, those that work for the teams and the leagues, what, do they need to better understand aligning with and engaging with the player unions and the retired player unions to support the 5%?
Well, I think from the perspective of baseball, I think we work very closely with the league and the teams. And I think we all know, and selfishly, I personally think this, but athletes bring the game to life, no matter what sport it is. And when you're really working in the best interest to protect the athletes, to really build communities, and we're around the world where they play, whatever country they're from, it can really help the business grow to positive and really inspire youth and beautiful things.
Yeah, and to add to that, we build a trust with the players. That's the number one thing that we can have with the players, and we're sometimes a voice for them. And so making sure, they trust us so that we're doing the right things on their behalf. And that's the, union's number one focus is those players, and making sure the right opportunities are presented to them, whether it's even events or appearances, you name it. Those are, important things that we have to build those trust with those players. And, I like to say we do a very good job of doing that. And that's across all the sports, and why those unions are successful in fighting for the players.
Do you find that being a woman in this space are you rare? Is there are you guys transforming the diversity equation in this area?
I say, yeah, you see more and more. I have to say, since I've started, I'm coming up on, I'll be 10 years next year with the NBRPA. So from when I started, yeah, there's definitely more women. There still can be more, because my organization is unique in that we represent WNBA players as well. And so we, being a voice as a woman, I feel like I can provide maybe a different take than a man in this position can. Even if I didn't play the sport, you can think like a woman. And that's a powerful thing in this organization. And so I think there's more women, but we're still inching our way there. It's definitely not where it could be, should be. But hopefully with this type of conversation and with the PSA, you see a lot more women executives, and we exist out there, but finding a way to come together and share ideas and be collaborative on it versus competitive. I think you would see more than inching. It'd be, taking yards instead. So, to use a football reference, since there's no football representation.
Yeah, I think sports need to see more women, specifically in baseball. We need more women in power in multiple areas, specifically related to the game. And the only way to do that, and for us to be in a position to inspire people, is we need to have people who look like us. We need to have women in power so that other women, young girls, can really figure out their path to work in sports. And it's really helpful to have senior women, executive women as mentors. I have many mentors and I love them all. Most of them are men though. And I'm hoping that in time that could change across all sports, but specifically in baseball.
Well, we always say representation is reflection. And, obviously, if you can see her, you can be her. That really is true. Do you find it to be an advantage, a disadvantage? Do you feel that, there's different negotiation tactics do you find that you're bringing a different twist to the table?
Yeah, for me, I think it's definitely, it's great to have people who think differently, and women think differently. If you're in a group of men and they're all on thinking on one topic, you can bring diversity into thought on it, because just as women, we think differently. So I think it's been an advantage. It's been challenging. I'm not going to lie. It's kind of hard when you're working in a room full of men, but I've been really blessed to have men that have really provided a path for me to succeed and listen and respect what I bring to the table, and really have helped me develop professionally.
I agree. I think there's a card I got one time that says aggressive versus assertive. And sometimes when women, bring a voice to the table, it's, comes across aggressively, or you're bossy or something worse. And so I think using that assertiveness is not a negative thing. It's, it would not be questioned if a man brought that assertiveness to a conversation or to bring up an idea. And I think also having some allies in the group, and I'm lucky enough, I have a lot of allies that are men, that, if it's an idea I come up with, it's not taken and used as if it's somebody else's idea, and vice versa. It's, giving credit where credit's due, and, you earn your seat at the table, you should earn that type of respect as well.
Did you always feel like you wanted a career in sports? Like, was that a direction you always thought you were going to go into? Was that a career choice, or?
For me, yes and no. I had been an athlete leading all the way up to college, and I chose to go to the Big Ten route versus playing Division II or Division III basketball. So I worked in sports in college, and worked actually for the women's basketball office and helped with recruitment. So it's always something I kind of fell upon, but was looking for a different career path to go into government, and work actually for the FBI was my dream. So to end up where I am now is definitely, I can't say it's a shock in some sense, because it's a natural fit, I feel like. And a lot of skill sets, believe it or not, can be, crossed over, and working for a large agency like I did in grad school, kind of working, it definitely, there's parallels. But, my passion has always been sports. It's who I am and who I started, what I was when I started growing up. So to find myself here, maybe looking back, wow, I took a really different career path than planned. But I use that speech a lot when I talk to colleges or have interns, that I am the perfect example that I'm not a straight A to B. I definitely took a little more of a zigzag path, but I think it's led me here too because of that. I wasn't, I had different experiences, and I brought something different to the table that maybe someone that started from college to now only in sports can't bring. So I take it as a positive, not necessarily a negative, but it did take a weird path.
I love that it was like you wanted to go to the FBI. I mean, that to me, I mean, it takes me to what is the biggest challenge you want to solve. If you were going to solve a case for the FBI, what's on the horizon for you? What's the biggest challenge in your horizon you want to solve in sports?
I think, elevating the women's game. It's a phenomenal sport. It needs more elevation. I'm happy to see, current players and former players really supporting it. I'd love to see even more, the fans and people really engage with the women's sport. If you want to watch fundamentally great basketball, you watch the women's game. And the women, knowing the women now since they've, retired, there is a phenomenal group of people that have worldly experience, because these women have played not just here in the WNBA, but they've also played abroad. And so when they were watching them in the Olympics, it wasn't a question if they're going to win, or it was, they know that game, they know the European game, they know how the reffing is and things like that. So it was really fun to watch, because I know those women in the next step of their life and that transition. So really trying to find ways to elevate that game and elevate their voices, and try to represent them in their next act. And if I can do a little piece and leave it better than I found it, then I feel like I've been successful at it.
Oh, you're definitely going to do that, Erin. I'm sure of that. Lenor, what about you?
I grew up with a bunch of boys in New York City, in a small apartment with one TV. We had no choice but to watch sports all day long. And it was something that I always was passionate about. I didn't care what department I would be in. I just wanted to start somewhere. I actually really wanted to be in basketball, but my path, baseball chose me. That's how it wasn't something that was my first choice. And now I love it. And I've had a great journey throughout the sport in different areas. And right now, I think my next journey, what I have been an advocate for is just seeing how players' voices, when they're united, could really change the world, not just in sports, but on really important topics off the field. And I've been blessed enough to work with such diverse players from different backgrounds, from different countries. And when they have one common interest, they can really, really empower and change and inspire the youth in ways that many other people can't. And so it's been really exciting. And I just love being in sports. And there's just so many different areas and avenues to work in sports. But that's what it is. I did dream of being a GM one day. And unfortunately, that didn't work out. But I'm just so happy that, now the game is now open to having a woman as a general manager. And we were able to have Kim Ang, who's the general manager of the Marlins, open that door up, and hopefully more women to come to be in that position.
It is so true. The power of collaboration, the power of team. I mean, sports is the greatest example of the power of team. And I think, when you look at leaders today, I think the statistic is over 94% of leaders have played on, have played sports at some point, in their journey, as at some point in their life have played some form of sport. When you talked about using voice for change in sports, is there a specific example that comes to mind, Lenor, of the collective power for change?
Yeah, there's so many. I think whether it's social justice, whether it's to change the way youth development is being managed in respective countries with young kids who aspire to be professional athletes, human rights. There's a bunch of guys that are really passionate about making sure that the next generation of professional athletes are treated right, properly from beginning, and education is on the forefront of that. And just having them being ambassadors is really what it is. But there's so many areas of interest, but those are probably the real big buckets: human rights, social justice, and opportunity. They want to keep those doors open the same way they had them. They just want to make them better and easier.
Yeah, no, I was just thinking, was there a moment, because you talked about different teams that used their voices, was there a moment, a team that used their voice that stands out?
Well, I would say
shivers.
Yeah. I think the one milestone in my career that really gave me chills was when our Cuban players who migrated here to this country had a very challenging time getting out of their country. And when we were able to come together and find a way for them to be able to return home to their country and really provide hope, that was a really, really big moment. And another one in 19, right before the pandemic, we brought a bunch of Venezuelan players who wanted to go to Colombia and really thank the country and for allowing so many Venezuelans to come into the country. And they wanted to give back and kind of inspire the Colombians and the Venezuelan kids all over the country to kind of work together to accept each other and to use sport as a vehicle and an outlet for them to change the world.
Sport for entertainment, sport for change. I mean, which is so true. Erin, is there a moment for you, that shiver moment, where that stands out for you as well?
I think there's a couple, and I've been lucky enough to take some goodwill trips with former players down to Haiti and to Panama. And I think those are the moments where you get to see not just the athlete, you get to see the person and the way they can give back to communities that have far less than what we have here in the States. And, you know, those are the trips I think where I got to really get to know a lot of players on a more intimate level, and really get to know who they are, you know, outside of the game of basketball. And there is so much more to these athletes that, you know, you see on TV. And I think that's really important to showcase. And that's part of our job here is storytelling, the, you know, of the former NBA and WNBA players about what they do off the court. And I think, Lenor spoke to that too, that bridging the gap and this, you know, bringing people together. And if you can use the vehicle of sport, and, you know, it doesn't matter what sport it is, it's really impactful, really powerful. And I'd love to be able to, you know, enhance those stories and tell them on a larger stage, because those are the stories that need to be told. Not the negative ones that are maybe, of course, more flashy, but there's so many good stories that go untold in sports and with the athletes and giving back. And that one, you know, just taking players to sing, you know, especially what just happened in Haiti, it was really impactful and will live with me for my entire career.
Yeah, I mean, the WNBA, it's like, watch me work. It's not just about what you do on the court, but it's who you are as a human, which I think is so incredibly powerful. The power of storytelling is remarkable. Okay, so I sidetracked. You both gave me these incredible shiver moments. How does working with players look different when you're at a union versus team or league?
It's more personal. I worked at a league and it's really more broader. You're running a business, representing all 30 clubs. As a team, you're part of a family, a part of a community that wants to bring the fans together and players together and have them look to kind of win. And then for me, as part of a union, you're really part of a collective group that you're really working and advocating for. And it's really personal to them. They are all, the goal for us, for players, is we want them to maximize their time as a professional athlete because their careers are so short. And you get to know, like Erin said, when you know them personally and you know their families and you want them all to be taken care of well, and you really want to have them succeed, and then also provide some insight for their next chapter, because they tend to retire so young. So for me, it's being part of the union. It's more personal with the players, and you get to know them and what they're about, and you become more passionate about really advocating for their rights and protecting them.
I would speak to Lenor. She's worked all three, so she's definitely would be the expert on that. But I feel, you know, on just the union side and working for a large organization, we have 1,500 athletes. It's a large group to know, but at the same time, you know, there's a way to find a way to represent them all. And, you know, that's the most important thing, is the union representing that player and those interests and trying to, as a collective, do what's best for them and give them, you know, especially in their second act, the best version of their second act is, you know, working with in the collective. So
how do athletes, especially like college athletes, start to learn about their rights and, you know, at the college level? Is there education, you know, for the athletes?
There is, go ahead.
You know, women in general don't even start negotiating for themselves. They, you know, they're afraid to ask. They don't know what they're worth, you know, all of those kind of questions. And so I'm going to talk about, I mean, male and female athletes, but in general, women are afraid to ask, negotiate. Does the education start for college athletes? And I'm going to go to, in particular, female athletes, because I know that we have those voices in our head as women more than men. Does the education start at the college level?
It does. I think in basketball, it's a little even more unique. With AAU, I think it starts younger, and maybe not young enough, in the sense that, you know, kids are being recruited at that age and looked at to go to college and then, to go pro. It varies, what the access and exposure is different for the boys and girls than obviously men and women too. I think has been more in the last few years of that education, but there still needs more. I think it's, now what's been approved with college and using name and likeness and how athletes can make money. There needs to be a lot of education, but it's such a growing fast area. And I know Lenor and I spoke about this too. It's the #1 growing area in sports right now is if you're in licensing or player brand partnerships, there's a lot of money to be made. But the also worrisome is that are these student athletes being used correctly? Are they, knowing what they're signing? They're still 17, 18, 19 years old. They're around their parents, or who are they around that, can really protect them? And that's a lot of information, a lot of money on the line, a lot of, access to those individuals, and especially the top sports. So there needs to be more education, and there needs to be more education on the professional level. So we know how to educate those students. It's kind of the same thing you see. It's, you have to put coaching and refs into learning programs, not just the athletes themselves, because it's a trickle down effect. So yes, there needs to be more, in my opinion.
I agree. And I think it really starts at a very young age, at the youth level, but it's really having opportunity for parents and the providers of those kids to get educated along with them, to help them in their journey as they grow. And I think we need to do a better job in all sports, starting at a very young age, but really incorporating parents in the process and through college and as a professional, and then even after. But so I think in general, in every sport, we all got to get better at doing that, reaching them at a younger age, but also their families, which is really important because those are the people they trust.
Yeah. So like career opportunities, what kind of career opportunities are there in this space? And what kind of skills or experiences do you think are most valuable?
Sure. So like I said, licensing and player brand partnerships are for sure the fastest growing. And we've seen in the pandemic ways to do that, not in person too. And the discovery of NFTs and still learning that, we joke and say that we're still feel like too old to know what that even means or what that looks like, but it's, fast growing in all sports. But I've seen just in basketball alone, the stuff that, those moments in time and how to sell that. So there's a lot of opportunity there. But, in general, I think the communication, dependability, and versatility, like you've got to have those 3 components to be a great asset. And once again, you can get that outside of sports too. I think that's kind of the misnomer. Maybe I'm just speaking from my own experience. You don't just need to be in sports to know those and be a great communicator, be dependable, and be unique, and come with, innovative thoughts and ways of doing things. You can learn that outside of sports, but it's a business. So learning that in business is really going to be key in those types of job opportunities, but in all opportunities as well.
Yeah, I think from a union perspective, I think unions are really the core are attorneys. We have a bunch of labor lawyers, so the legal aspect is one avenue they can do. We have marketing, we have communications, we have events. We having and knowing how to be disciplined to run a really successful event when you're dealing with major league professional athletes is really important. Having the patience to listen more than speak, I think is really, really important. And also being open to doing whatever job needs to happen to be able to execute, I think is really key. And for anyone who's looking to be in any sport, or whether it's a union or the league, I think really understanding the collective bargaining agreement to understand what the rights are for players is really, really important, no matter what sport you're in. And it'll give you an advantage if you know it really, really well.
Amazing. And, you know, I think we're also seeing, and I'm so pleased to see that mental health is no longer a taboo topic. We are starting to, you know, talk about it, understand that it's so important. It's a spectrum. It's a good thing to take care of yourself and make that a priority. Are you starting to see that more being talked about, being addressed, being welcomed into protocol and, you know, into policy as a priority? Is that becoming more and more discussed, or was that always part of the program?
I think you're right. It was something in the past, from my experience, everyone has experienced some kind of challenge mentally, whether, you know, at any moment in their life. And for athletes, they just wouldn't speak about it. And now we have found in baseball, there are a lot of players that are talking about their own journey, how challenging it's been, but also providing tips on how they've overcome it. And we're seeing that we as an industry have to provide more resources for people, and we need to really highlight it, promote it, and really encourage people to take advantage of their health benefits in this area, them and their dependents and their families. So it is growing, and it's becoming more powerful for our players to talk about it than in the past.
Most definitely. We've done in the last couple of years at our events, usually we activate during Summer League in Las Vegas, and we've done, you know, some breakout sessions and summits about mental health and having some professionals there, and, you know, always having a hotline for players who want to, you know, speak to somebody. And also we've done some things virtually now during, you know, the pandemic. I think there's a thing, you know, them as former athletes, but they're also parents, they're grandparents, they're caretakers. There's a lot more going on that's on their plate than maybe even when they were playing, or it's just, you know, a different time. So providing more resources. And the tricky thing about mental health is, though, there's a lot of stories that are, you know, are could be told from behind the scenes, but obviously it's a very sensitive topic, and, you know, you don't want to expose anybody or speak for somebody else. And so there are a lot of things that go on behind the scenes that, you know, I'm proud to say that we've helped a lot of people with, but at the same time, you know, you don't broadcast that. That's something that's, you know, close to the vest, and is part of being in the union too, to protect those players and make sure that people get the help they need.
Yeah. You know, so we talk a lot about the future of work, the future of office, the future of, you know, all the above. What's the future of sports?
I would say diversity, inclusion. I think there are going to be more women in different positions that we've never seen before. And that's what I'm really hopeful in terms of making the game come to life. There's a, you know, outside of the athlete. So I'm really excited about having women be in a position of power on any capacity in every single sport. And I really feel that our time has come now, and those doors are going to start to open.
I agree. I just completed that diversity inclusion course with Pro Sports Assembly. And, you know, we had a great group, and I feel like there's more and more of those opportunities to learn and to grow and understand what diversity actually means. And I think that we're making small steps, but, you know, the next 20 years, I think front offices, teams, coaches, it's going to look very different, and as it should. And I'm excited to be, you know, help to be a part of that change, to witness the change, and, you know, to help the next generation to not necessarily have some of the challenges we've had, and to ask questions that we were maybe afraid to ask in our, you know, our careers, and that shouldn't be afraid to ask, specifically as women. So, you know, I'm excited to see that, and the elevation of other women. You know, we need to continue to lift each other up, and that helps, you know, with platforms like this. You know, it makes me really excited to be a part of that. So
Well, there you have it. And I have to say, under the incredible leadership, the courage to have these sometimes uncomfortable conversations, more uncomfortable we get, the more comfortable we get. And that's where you have it. So Laura Dixon, you are doing amazing work leading us with PSA and bringing the collective together. And I always say a company alone is power, collectively we create impact, and we are all a part of the change. And I think that's what this is really all about. So Erin, Lenor, thank you so much for this incredible conversation, and conversation leads to action. So here's to each of you for taking the next steps forward, and every step leads to the next one. As long as we are moving forward, that's where progress happens. We keep going forward. So thank you for this incredible conversation. Can't wait for the next one.
Thank you.
Thank you for everyone joining.